And so that idea of the Supreme being with us, we are in the process. Yes, it's a process. And you understand it more as you go along, of being refined so that we can reflect the purity and the benevolence. Because this is the thing with any of these original qualities, they automatically contain benevolence. They are by their nature givers. And of course, we've gotten ourselves in trouble by taking too much, by being greedy, by complicating things. You know, I was hearing on the news yesterday, or seeing, it was on the BBC site, and no surprises. You know, again, purity means, to me, means organic, means original, means authentic. And despite maybe our attempts at improving the lot of humanity, that sometimes our experimentation or where we arrive at create more damage than help. And so yesterday for me, and it was like one of the smallest things, and it was about insects, you know, because there is, again, what is natural? The world is no longer natural. You know, it has moved out of its natural orbit, if you like, and we can't trust the seasons anymore. You know, we can't trust the winds or anything else. And so what had happened, and I guess the experiment was done in the countryside in England, and they had these hedgerows, right? And these hedgerows are normally and naturally filled with the life of insects, you know, in the ground, on the branches, on the leaves, everything else. But sometime prior, they had installed, you know, to facilitate driving or for safety purposes, LED streetlights, you know. And it caught my attention because somebody did the same thing here, pretty much in front of the center. And that light shines straight into our dining room all night long, unless you pull the blinds, you know. And I had understood that even trees need to sleep at night, you know, within nature, with the exception of things like owls and maybe some other creatures. Everything goes to sleep at night and they rise with the dawn. That's nature, that's natural. And so what they had found with the trees is that where there's bright lights, that those trees don't grow properly. It's like something's missing. And trees do have, as someone recently wrote a book on, The Secret Lives of Trees, and their very complex family system and how they support each other. But in this instance, with the insects, what they had found, and I won't get into the detail of how they arrived at it, but suffice to say, in a comparative study where there were these lights, then the insect population had deteriorated in terms of numbers markedly so, you know, like something like it had been reduced by about 57%. And so what we're seeing is the whole thing of, you know, value itself has changed. What we give value to now is not the things we give value to in olden days. And I'm not suggesting we go back, but time would have had a different value. Farmers would have had a different value, but now it seems to be all to do with a particular type of currency, you know. And this is a foreign currency in terms of the soul, because the soul needs to deal in the currency. Some of you mentioned this thing of the, what was it? Not appreciation. What was the word you used? Gratitude, the language of gratitude. And so we're not grateful for the right things anymore. And it kind of diminishes them. And that everything now is about, you know, the almighty dollar or rupee or pound, whatever it happens to be. And so then this is the world at this time, that these qualities that we traded them in, if you like, thinking that by taking on ego and anger and impurity and so on, that they would give us happiness, they would give us peace, they would give us joy, they would bring us love. But it doesn't work like that, you know. That dirty water is never going to nourish the body in the same way that pure water. And for the purest water, you have to go to the source. And so this is where we find ourselves today. So all of the things that were said, I don't know that I can add to it. I'm remembering someone, because this came up in your conversation too, about when someone is, say, defaming you or behaving badly with you. We were advised in a recent morning class not to see it as a bad thing, and this image has stayed with me, but rather to feel that that person is pushing your swing. They are making you go higher. And I think to say, you know, I would equate maybe purity with another difficult word, which is perfect. And once, maybe about a year or so ago, in one of our morning classes, our main teacher, the Supreme, used this expression that perfect means beyond effect. And I think that also is the nature of purity, that there's an innocence in purity. And there's wonderful stories in the Hindu scriptures of Shiva, you know, and how his innocence, you know, even when the house that he had built for Parvati, when it came to paying for it, and the builder said, well, I want the house. And Shiva said, okay, you can take it. You know, that he didn't see in terms of the constructs of society. He wasn't beholden to the constructs of society, but that had a much larger frame of reference that could only be said to be a complete and utter generosity, that was able to even take the poison that the ocean was spewing and consider that whatever was being given was a gift, you know. And I remember Daddy Janki in a situation where someone came to Daddy and told Daddy that they had just received a letter of complaints from I guess maybe from the students that she was teaching, but you know, and of course she was a little distraught by it, but of course, going to Daddy Janky, you're going to the right person. And Daddy said to her, you know, don't allow it to, if you're affected by it, by what they're saying, then you will not be able to give them what God has given you. And so this thing of the level of vibration and the thing of generosity and the aspect of flow, and it's deciding for your own self, because in a sense, when you withhold your goodness, when you withhold your charity, your benevolence, your forgiveness, any of those things, what you're in effect saying is, I can't afford this. I can't afford to give you any more love. I can't afford to be any more compassionate. And so it's almost like there's another energy out there that ostensibly you could say is listening to that. And it's like, okay, if that's how you feel, that's how we'll do it. Only this much. Whereas if it's like, you know, I'm going to need some courage. I'm going to need something maybe to draw on something that I don't feel I have the fullness of at the moment. But by the very intention to do that, it's like as if the gates of heaven open up to you and make that energy accessible. And so on the one hand, that, you know, I could say that purity is just simply back to this first teaching of the Brahma Kumaris and the soul. I'm eternal, rather than, you know, seeing myself in the context of my gender. And today there's such a wrestling with issues of gender that every single soul at some level is trying to answer that question, who am I, you know? And of course, with the idea of purity, the idea, it's not that I am, you know, and of course, chastity is something that's always been valued, but ultimately, and the paradox is that chastity is valued particularly in a female, but often it's only so that someone can take it away. You know, that's the paradox there. But that I'm not my biology, you know, even though I'm influenced by my biology, whatever is my gender. And I'm not my biography, because very often our biology can dictate our biography. And so in the context of meditation, you're being invited, instead of, I was thinking of it, instead of looking out the front door or the back door, it's like, come up the stairs and then come on up into the attic and look out through the skylight, you know, and your perception is huge. Down here, not so much, you know, and you can see things coming from a distance. You open the front door, you can only see the person who's standing there, but you go up there, you can see them coming miles off, and you can decide whether to invite them in or that your door is closed to them, depending on the effect and the influence that they are likely to have on you. So this thing of not being impressed by others, it is amazing to me how the Supreme One with such patience and such gentleness and awareness, and without criticism or removing his affection or way of seeing us, nurtures us so kindly into being ourselves, because he understands what has happened since we moved away from our origins, and how we gradually, without intending, became corrupted. But he didn't say we were, beyond being redeemed. And so what the journey is, yes, it is back to love and to peace and all of those good things. But it's also about embracing yourself. It's about knowing yourself, not through your karmic account or not through somebody else's opinion of you, because very often what happens, depending on how much you allow them to influence you, their opinion of you will become your opinion of you. And then where are you? You've just tied a tighter knot. And so the only one, the only being that is outside of the universe and that is beyond the laws of karma, that never loses one iota of his purity, even in dealing with the impure world at the present time, that's the way that I want to see myself, how that being sees me. And that being only sees me with charity, with kindness, with forgiveness, as his own, and molds me to the extent that I give permission to become more aligned with him and his vision for me and for my human family and for the whole world. So maybe we leave it there. I think in terms of time, and again, somebody else mentioned it, and a quality that's very, very, very dear to my own heart is that of freedom. And so that freedom to be yourself without hesitation, without fear, and knowing that where you are at this moment in time, if not completely perfect, is good enough as you move towards that perfection. Even the music is calling me back. Inviting me. Reminding me. Drawing like a magnet. The residue of all my original qualities. Each one having lost its power of purity on the soul's long, long journey. But now the light is lit. I've released the burdens and whatever had bound me to gravity. Separation. That robbed me of my self-worth, and of my place as a contributor, as a support. All that is changing as I release into peace. As if doors within myself that were closed and bolted swing open. And the stream, crystal clear and pure, flowing gently, fills my mind. Cleansing and nourishing. This is who I am. This is where there is contentment. And the soul regains its rightful place. Worthy to be in front of and to be seen by the Supreme. And to accept the title of eternal child. I have returned to innocence. Om Shanti.